Hello, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, the evacuation of the Amona settlement outpost moves forward. The head of the Mossad allegedly heads to the U.S. for a secret briefing and will reveal how the Holy Land is preparing for Christmas. I'm Natasha Kirchuk here with the latest news in Israel. It was just released for publication that Israeli security forces have uncovered what the army says is the largest weapons factory ever found in the West Bank. 2 Palestinians have been arrested after an overnight raid exposed an illegal arms-making facility concealed under a house in southern Hebron. 15 latches and a mountain of other components needed to produce weapons were confiscated. Other items included a Russian sniper rifle and even M16 rifle parts, complete with assembly instructions. Most of the recent shooting attacks at Israeli civilians and soldiers are believed to have been perpetrated by such homemade guns, produced by Palestinians in the West Bank. This latest discovery is part of an ongoing campaign to stomp out increased terrorist activity. Hundreds of soldiers from a number of brigades took part in the latest operation in conjunction with the border police. There was a dramatic clash near the Gaza border fence this afternoon when Hamas terrorists unexpectedly opened fire on Israeli troops. The soldiers were securing a site where civilian engineers are working when they suddenly came under fire. The IDF immediately retaliated by launching 3 tank shells at a Hamas military post across the border, completely destroying it. None of the Israeli soldiers or civilians were hurt, and no damage was caused to the barrier. During the incident, farmers in the area were instructed to quickly leave their fields and seek cover. Now that residents in Amona have agreed to the Israeli government's latest offer, plans to evacuate the illegal outpost are rolling full steam ahead. There still may be some last-minute hitches in the plan, though. The cabinet is allocating $34 million to cover costs of the eviction. Almost $10.5 million of the funds will be used to compensate the uprooted families, but most of the money will be used to build a new settlement nearby. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is reiterating his appeal for the settlers to leave peacefully, while underscoring his commitment for the right of Jews to live in their historical homeland of Judea and Samaria.
לא הייתה ממשלה שדאגה יותר להתיישבות בארץ ישראל, ואין ממשלה שדואגת יותר. עושים כל מאמץ אפשרי. אני חושב שראשי היישוב עמונה, שהיו איתי ועם השר בנט אתמול עד לפנות בוקר במשרדי, יכולים להעיד על עובדה פשוטה. אנחנו עשינו את המקסימום.
Netanyahu is carrying out a very careful balancing act to placate the 330 people living in Amona, while upholding a high court order to dismantle the outpost by December 25th after ruling the outpost was built on privately owned Palestinian land. The latest proposal doubles the number of mobile homes to be placed at a new site in Amona on land the state says is being held in custodianship for absentee Palestinian owners. But now it appears that claim may be disputed.
الآن وجدوا ضالتهم في أراضي اعتبروها أراضي متروكة، وهي موجودة هون على الخارطة اللي هي 34 قطعة، وهذه كلها حوالين عمونة يعني وجنب عمونة. وطلبوا منا في هذه الرسالة، هي الرسالة موجودة، إنه نقدم إحنا اعتراض ولكن نجيب الأسباب الموثقة، يعني بدنا نجيب حصر إرث، كوشان، أي دليل يثبت إنه هذه الأرض أصحابها موجودين ويملكون الوثائق المطلوب. جبنا ل 32 قطعة. الآن بقي قطعتين هيهم موجودات، هي 38 و 69.
This effort by anti-settlement groups to document ownership of the property demonstrates that nothing's been simple about resolving the impending evacuation from Amona, which is still far from over with just days to go before the deadline. Growing from the Arab Spring in 2011, the Syrian civil war has now been raging on for nearly 6 years, leaving over 400,000 people dead and millions displaced. With the whole world seemingly turning a blind eye to the atrocities happening just north of the Jewish state, many at home can't help but think, what can be done to help? Joining me today in the studio is Zohar Kaplan from the Beyond Our Border organization to talk about what he did to answer that question. Thanks so much for coming in.
Shalom.
So, to begin, what is the mission of Beyond Our Border?
Beyond Our Border is aiming to collect money to support people in Syria. What we do is try to put an answer to what people in Israel feel that they have to do, and we give them a way to do that. We bring a platform for them to support the people in Syria. That's basically what we do. We collect money and buy things that people in Syria need. We make sure it reaches them.
How did this organization begin? What were your personal motivations as well?
Well, a bunch of us, 5 of us, met about a month ago. Just a few friends from all around the country, and we said we have to do something. We're all Israelis. We're all well, in our group, we're all Jewish, and we can't see something like this happening just a few kilometers away from us and not sit around and not do anything for so many years. We felt like we have to do something. And
was there something specific that spurred that? Because it has been going on for so long, and just now you guys are meeting and doing this.
I don't know if there's like a certain event that made us, made this happen. I feel personally for me, this is something that was building up along the last few years. When the things happening in Syria are just getting worse and worse and worse, and you can see the pictures, and you feel like you have to do something. And we thought it's just us, and we said we'll do something small. We raise a little bit of money.
And you didn't raise just a little bit of money. You raised a lot of money, right? How much have you guys raised so far?
Well, so far we're 4 days online with our funding project. We raised $200,000 from 4,500 donors, and we're just starting.
And that's in 3 days, something like that,
yeah,
right?
it's a little bit over 3 days, 3.5 days.
3.5 days.
And we're looking to raise not only more money, because I don't think that the amount that we raised would change. It wouldn't stop the war. It would definitely help the people over there. It wouldn't stop the war. What would make a big difference is if we get a lot of thousands of Israelis to contribute. That's a lot of force. That's people that want to make a difference, and we're giving them a chance to make a difference. That's what we're trying to do.
Now, there are a lot of different conflicts taking place around the world. So why Syria specifically, and not one of these other places?
Well, I think everything is important. Wherever you can help, you should do that. I think what's happening now in Syria was not taken care of by the Western world enough. It's definitely not from us as Israelis, seeing Syria for many years as an enemy country, and Syria basically does not exist anymore. And now the people that live there are going through really, I don't know, maybe what's the right word for that. That's kind of a hell that they're going through. And our job as neighbors, as human beings, is to help. And that doesn't matter, for me personally, it doesn't matter if there's a border between us. These guys had a government that was our enemy. They're human beings, and we should help them.
Now, Israel is special in the sense that there's a very dark history to the Jewish people. And do you think that makes it so that Israelis have more of an obligation to be assisting with this issue than in other places?
I think every person around the world has to take a stand and try to support, especially people like the Jewish people who we have this history that is sitting on on us, and it has to push you to action. You cannot be, I'm not sure what's the right word for that, but you cannot just be silent, stand, put that aside. I can tell you, my grandmother, who's 96 years old, I went to visit her on Saturday and told her about our project. She lived through the Second World War in Lithuania, and then in Israel. Most of her family was murdered by the Nazis, unfortunately. A lot of my relatives are Holocaust survivors. And when I sat with her and I told her about the project, besides the fact that she says, I have to donate, and of course she donated, and she's our oldest donor, she said, it's amazing how our people, we're refugees. We escaped a war. We had people chasing us, and it's our obligation to help when other people need our help. And for me personally, it's kind of closing a personal circle, helping other people that are in need. And I see from how the numbers of people in Israel that are joining our effort, it's not only me, it's something that's much wider.
Now, obviously you can donate money. My first question for you is, what is the next step for Beyond Our Border? What is going to happen with this money? Where is it going to go specifically?
So we started 4 days ago, 3.5 days ago. For a whole month, we're going to raise a lot of money. With this money, we're buying products, mainly for children, if it's food, if it's medicine, and other equipment that is needed for refugees. In Syria. We're buying this equipment in Israel, and we have joined together with the Israeli organization called Israel Flying Aid. And the Israel Flying Aid has worked in the last few years in Syria, giving aid and supporting the citizens over there. And together with them, we're making sure that whatever we buy reaches the people who need it on the other side.
Now, how can people at home contribute to this cause? If you're not necessarily here in Israel, but you want to give money, what can you do?
So we have a website. It's called justbeyondourborder.com, justbeyondourborder.com. You can also look up Just Beyond Our Border on Facebook or online. You'll find that, and you can donate on the website. And I think what's most important for us is not that you give a lot of money, but you spread the word around, make people care, make people take part, take action, not only know, but also act. And even if they can contribute something really small, it makes a big difference, and we hope a lot of people contribute.
Well, thank you so much for coming in. Just so everybody knows, last night I went to a big protest in Tel Aviv where hundreds of Israelis gathered to protest what's taking place in Syria and also to stand in solidarity with the Syrian people. So if you tune in tomorrow at 9 p.m., you'll be able to see the piece that I did and kind of learn a little bit more about how Israelis are getting involved in what's happening in Syria. Again, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Israel is responding warmly to U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's selection of David Friedman as the next American ambassador to Israel. A source in Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office says the premier is quite pleased with the appointment and that he's looking forward to working closely with Friedman, who he knows has a full confidence of incoming President Trump. During a Republican rally for American Israelis in Jerusalem right before the elections, Friedman was applauded while outlining changes in future U.S. policy.
A Trump administration will never pressure Israel into a two-state solution or any other solution that is against the wishes of the Israeli people.
Friedman's already making an impact by declaring he intends to take up his post in Jerusalem, implying the U.S. Embassy may at long last be moved to the Israeli capital from Tel Aviv. The new American ambassador says he will work tirelessly to strengthen the unbreakable bond between the U.S. and Israel while advancing regional peace, and says he's looking forward to doing so from the U.S. Embassy in Israel's eternal capital of Jerusalem. The Palestinians are already slamming the possible embassy move to the city they want to see become the capital of their own future state. The head imam cleric of the Al-Aqsa Mosque used his sermon to declare the Arabs will recognize any such relocation as an act of war. Meanwhile, it looks like the head of Israel's Mossad intelligence agency has even made a secret visit to the U.S. to give a security briefing to Trump's staff. According to reports from the Israeli news source Ynet, Mossad Director Yossi Cohen has briefed Trump's staff members on the Iranian nuclear deal and the Syrian civil war, including regional terror threats and the Palestinian issue. The security delegation was allegedly organized by the Israeli Prime Minister and was led by Israel's National Security Council head Yaakov Nagel. The Israeli ambassador to the United States, Ron Dermer, also supposedly attended the meeting. It now looks like the concept of a peace conference to jumpstart the Israeli-Palestinian peace process may not be far off, because Israeli officials also reportedly discussed hopes for a regional forum to be held in Egypt. On the sidelines of an international conference in London, ILTV's Steve Leibowitz interviewed former Australian Foreign Minister Gareth Evans. Evans is warning that President-elect Donald Trump has no sense of international issues, and he's even speaking out against Trump's campaign promise to dismantle the Iran nuclear deal.
Well, the Iran deal was a very sensible deal, and it's one that has basically been accepted as such by, I know, the Israel security and defence establishment, if not by its political leadership. God knows what Trump's view on this or anything else is. I think he is finding his way. He has no sense of the dynamics of international relations generally or the pros and cons of any particular individual aspect of it. He said all sorts of extravagant things on the campaign trail about this and many other things. I think we'll hopefully see a walking back from this. It's not an American deal, it's an international deal, it's a multilateral deal, and it's a perfectly sensible deal. The only problem with the deal was that it was 10 years too late and came at a time when the Iranians had 20,000 centrifuges rather than 200, which is what they had when the deal could have been first struck had people been a bit more sensible about it.
Also on the campaign trail, President Obama was talking about the danger of allowing Donald Trump to be the man with the nuclear codes. Are you similarly concerned?
Yeah, I mean, you look for qualities of character and judgment and balance in your political leadership, particularly if they're armed with nuclear codes and the nuclear button. It's a very, very dangerous world that we live in at the moment, and I think we all acknowledge that the biggest problem with nuclear weapons is not so much the likelihood of their deliberate use, but rather their use as a result of error or misjudgment or miscalculation. And it's exactly that possibility of misjudgment or miscalculation that I think we do have to be concerned about with Donald Trump's finger on the button.
Finally, I'd like to ask you this. This conference is dedicated to the prevention of nuclear catastrophe and has been working on that for more than a decade, certainly. Are you afraid that we're closer today to nuclear catastrophe than we were a year ago, 5 years ago, even 10 years ago?
Yes, I am, because the bottom has gone out of the market for any kind of sensible bilateral negotiations between the United States and Russia, which is crucial for other things to start happening in terms of the diminution of that risk. We do have multiple players now in the wider international community with India, Pakistan, Israel, of course, I have to acknowledge, but those two in particular. We have the possibility of pressures building up for South Koreans and others to join in the race because of anxieties about North Korea. And just generally, it's a very unsafe world out there. Again, I think the problem is not so much that anyone will be crazy enough to deliberately use nuclear weapons, because any such use is not only homicidal but suicidal, as we ought by now to be aware. But the problem is human error, system error, cyber sabotage, all the things that can go wrong. And the consequences of them going wrong are just devastating for life on this planet as we know it.
Well, I hope that your projections are overly cautious, perhaps I'd say, and that we are able to step back from the brink. Thanks so much for being with us at ILTV.
Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you.
Outgoing United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon addressed several issues relating to Israel during what's expected to be his very last appearance before the Security Council before stepping down from office next month. Ban rather predictably spoke out against a regulation bill currently being debated at the Israeli Knesset to grant retroactive approval of several settlements in Judea and Samaria.
I strongly urge legislators to reconsider advancing this bill, which will have negative legal consequences for Israel and substantially diminish the chances for Arab-Israeli peace. We all can and must contribute to building trust so sorely needed in the Middle East and the world today. This work must begin now before it is too late. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you, Mr. President.
The UN chief did something else that was not expected. While summing up his 10 years at the helm, Ban admitted the United Nations sponsored a disproportionate volume of anti-Israel resolutions, reports, and conferences. He then went even further, confirming that in many cases, this reality not only failed to help the Palestinian cause, but only hampered the ability of the UN to effectively fulfill its role. Israel's ambassador to the UN, Dani Danon, immediately responded, reaffirming that Ban spoke the absolute truth. Danon is accusing the UN of hypocrisy. Jerusalem's envoy says it's beyond absurd that over the past decade the UN would condemn the democratic Jewish state in a whopping 223 resolutions, and pass only 8 against the Syrian regime's massacre of its own citizens during 6 years of bloody civil war. 'Tis the season to be merry, and it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas in Jerusalem. The municipality is helping to add the centerpiece to celebrations by distributing complimentary Christmas trees. All the capital's Christian residents need to do is come to the Jaffa Gate Plaza tomorrow to choose their favorites. And it's all free of charge, courtesy of the Jewish state's holiday spirit. The annual tradition is just part of comprehensive Christmas preparations underway, which include the stringing of festival lights in neighborhoods such as the Christian Quarter in the Old City, as well as the main thoroughfares where thousands of visiting pilgrims will commemorate the holiday. Areas around churches in the Israeli capital are also being brightened with a little extra cleaning. The local council is also working closely with Christian residents to expedite licensing and provide additional assistance for special holiday fairs and other Christmas activities. Now, this may sound outlandish, but it's true. An Israeli trio is becoming a smash success in the Arab world by singing songs flavored with the spice of their Middle East heritage. The 3 performers are sisters, Ta'ir Liron and Tegel Chaim, who grew up in the deserts of southern Israel. The name of their band is Ewa, which means yes in Arabic, reflecting their Yemenite Jewish heritage. And get set, because now worldwide rap star Pitbull just remixed the girl group's global electro-Yemenite hit called Habib Galbi. The original song features lyrics of traditional women's songs from Yemen, infused with the stylized rhythms of hip-hop and reggae. After winning over Israeli audiences, it swept the Arab world and Europe, and is even rising on North American charts. The latest version, blending the vocals of the Cuban-American rapper with the harmonizing sisters, went live on YouTube and the iTunes Store on December 1st, and it's already scoring tens of thousands of hits. The collaboration is one of the most unique sounds to ever soar across the airwaves, and even formal foes of the Jewish state just can't stop tapping their feet to the beat. Now for our Hebrew word of the day. When speaking in any foreign language, there are a few words you should probably always know first. Sometimes these words are so obvious that it's easy to forget them, which brings us to today's word, ken, which means yes in Hebrew. Ken both literally means yes and is also used as an affirmative. So if someone offers you a drink of water in the Israeli heat, you say ken. If your friends ask you if you're free to go to the beach, obviously it's ken. And if you're being told to do something you've already done, you could say ani ken asiti et ze, meaning I did do it. Whatever the situation, just be open to saying ken, because as Dan Brule once said, when you say ken, the universe helps you. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast.
ILTV's weather forecast is sponsored by Adopt a Savta, taking care of Israel's lonely Holocaust survivors.
Tonight will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and a low of 42 or 6 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow should be partly cloudy but remaining unseasonably cool with an expected high of 59 or 15 degrees Celsius. All right, everybody, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.87 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv. Thanks for watching and see you tonight.